need everybody to listen. All right, I'm not going to be talking a lot, but I will, when I am talking, I'll just ask that you quiet down for just a few minutes while I say what I got to say, and then you can go back to your talking as much as you want. That is up to you. A couple of rules that we have. First rule is no complaining. You're here because you volunteered to be here, so. But I don't think there's going to be much to complain about today. We got an incredibly beautiful day, so I think it's going to be good. The second rule is you need to keep one eye on the trail. We're going to be going over some rough trail. There'll be rocks, there'll be roots, different things like that. And I can tell you right now, there's nothing that these roots would rather do than grab you by the ankles and slam you down on your face. And we will laugh at you. And it'll probably be documented and posted up on YouTube. So, please keep an eye on the trail. There are some places where leaves have fallen and the trail's a little bit slippery. So you need to watch your step there. If there's hand railing, you might want to use it. Somebody's arm you can grab onto, you might want to grab it. But you want to take your time, because the leaves make the rock and the trail slippery in some places. The third rule, stay on the trail. The reason for this is twofold. One, these are natural areas or protected areas, and so we don't want to be tearing up the natural beauty of the place. The second thing is, there are two species of poisonous snakes in this park. The first one is eastern timber rattler. The second is copperhead. They will both make you sick or kill you. You want to stay on the trail where they tend to not be. If you go busting off into the bush, you're increasing your chances of getting bit. Now, there's not much of a likelihood that we will encounter any bear, but there are bear in this part of Kentucky. If we see a bear, please do not panic. Just relax. We will back away from that area and leave the bear on his own. We will not throw rocks at the bear. We will not run up and try to play tag with the bear. We will simply back slowly away from the situation. Now, you're going to need to pace yourself a little bit. We're going to have a little bit of a warm-up, going up some stairs. This is just the beginning. We want to try to stay together, but if you need to take a little bit slower pace, that is fine. We're not here to set any land speed records. But you do want to pace yourself. Try to keep working efficiently, climbing, and so on and so forth. We will take periodic rest areas, rest stops, rest areas. All right. I know we have a lot of guests here. We want to welcome them. Glad that you decided to spend your day with us here. Hopefully it'll be worth your while. The only other thing I want to say is kind of watch out for each other, watch out for yourself. It is a very long drive to the closest hospital. It will be a long and painful evacuation out of the park and a long ride to a hospital. So let's not do anything too risky or too crazy. All right, here we go. Focus on, if I get everyone's attention here for just a few minutes, and we'll let you get back to social discussion. First of all, I want to formally welcome you to the park. I guess most of you realize now we have 2 universities represented, 3 campuses, and about 5 classes that are here. Cincinnati Christian University and Northern Kentucky University. This is my usual routine pretty much every semester. Some of you have been on this trip with me before, some of you several times. We even have previous students of mine that are here just for the fun of it. So those of you who are begrudgingly here, I want you to know that people just come for the fun. So again, it's nice to have guests and family with us as well. We have 3 area. Let's do a little geology discussion over here. As you came down into the park, as you made your way down the Mountain Parkway, you were transitioning through several physiographic provinces of Kentucky. You came out of the outer bluegrass where we had all the hills and valleys. You came into Lexington, which is the inner bluegrass, horse capital of the world. You drove right past Kentucky Horse Park, which at one time was a very significant horse farm, and then was turned into a real showcase for the horse industry and so on and so forth in the region. Then you made your way down to I-64 and then on down the Mountain Parkway, transitioning eventually up onto the Appalachian Plateau, which is where we are here now. Probably as you were driving down the Mountain Parkway, you noticed how the landscape may have started changing, started looking a little more mountainous, and that was basically bringing you into the Appalachian Plateau or the Cumberland Plateau, or the Eastern Coalfields as they're known in Eastern Kentucky. So, all of those transitions that you were making are indicating changes in the geological environment. So here we are in this area with 4 major types of rock. Probably the most important for the area is a sandstone, which is on the top. Sandstone acts as a cap rock, which tends to support and hold the landscape up. The arches and bridges that we'll be looking at today are made of this resistant rock material, sandstone. The second kind of rock that we have is what we see here in front of us. This is limestone. I'm going to say more about it here in just a moment. The third type of rock is shale in its various forms that we have in the area. And the final type of rock is coal. And although coal is not very thick right here, as you move further to the east and southeast, you get more and more seams of coal, and more of the coal industry, of course, is seen there. I want to talk for just a moment about the limestone, since that's the environment in which we find ourselves. This cave, which goes back for about 100 yards or so, back into the hillside here, is actually a kind of a miniature model for us of Mammoth Cave. It used to be we could go down to a sinkhole, which is off in the other valley that we kind of came up the stairs into. There's a sinkhole there. You go into that sinkhole and down into the cave. There's a large room back in there in the cave, and then come out this way. But several years ago, the white nose syndrome, which is a disease that is passed from bat colony to bat colony, began to decimate the bat populations in the Midwest. And it is transmitted from one cave to another, primarily by the boots and shoes of people that go through caves. And so they have blocked the cave off. We're not able to actually go back into the cave any further than we are. Although there are tours that sometimes go through there. You can arrange with the park to get to or take you back in there. But they give you precautions of making sure that your boots are clean so you can get into the cave without affecting the population. That being said, this is a miniature model. It's a miniature model of Mammoth Cave and other caves, but particularly Mammoth Cave, for 2 reasons. The first reason is that these limestone layers that we see here get thicker as you move to the west, across central Kentucky to the Cave District, Mammoth Cave, Cave City, off to our west. These are the same layers of limestone that form the host rock for Mammoth Cave. Same layers. They just get progressively thicker as you move to the west. Here they're about 90 feet thick, and over in the Mammoth Cave area, they're between 500 and 600 feet thick. Just like in Mammoth Cave, you see the same kind of cave formation process here. Mammoth Cave, there are different formations. The St. Louis Formation at the bottom, the St. Genevieve, which is kind of in the middle, and then the Gherkin Formation on top, which is very obvious in Mammoth Cave. Here, they're not quite as thick, not quite as well developed, but they still have different characteristics that help the cave to form. In this area, formation is massive limestone. When we say it's massive limestone, what we mean is that it's very tightly cemented and is not easy to dissolve with groundwater. Groundwater, of course, is what dissolves away limestone and forms a cave. But the St. Louis is a very hard limestone in terms of its resistance to rainwater, groundwater weathering away. So it forms for the cave. The limestone that the cave is formed in, the St. Genevieve, is a different kind of limestone. We get a sense of what it's like. You look at the layers of rock right almost at eye level and just above. So these rock layers, you can see them over here as well. Do they look like they're horizontal or do they look like they're tilted? What do you think?
Tilted.
A little bit of tilt to them. We call those tilted layers cross beds. And cross beds are indicative of sediment, sedimentary material that is deposited by a current, by a stream, or by ocean water moving back and forth. The shallow water in the ocean moving back and forth. So these sediments were deposited by a shallow marine current that was sort of moving back and forth, depositing the sediment. Now the sediment of this particular limestone is called oolitic limestone. Oolitic limestone is a limestone made of tiny sand-sized grains of basically limestone that are cemented together. Those of you who are from Indiana, you can take special pride in oolitic limestone because it's also known as Indiana limestone, which is quarried in south central Indiana around Bedford, Bloomington, that area of southern Indiana. But here we have oolitic limestone. Oolitic limestone being a limestone made of particles cemented together has a little more porosity. That means that water can pass through it. And if water can pass through it, then water can dissolve it. And that is why the cave is formed in the oolitic limestone, because the groundwater passing through this hillside is able to dissolve away some of this limestone and form a cave passage. It was able to dissolve the limestone because the oolitic limestone is a little more porous. The water is able to make its way through a little more easily than it can the St. Louis limestone beneath us. So here's a good example of the different types of limestone that we've been talking about in some of the classes, and particularly the cross-bedding of this limestone, which is indicating shallow water and a current that is depositing these particles that will later form a limestone that will later be dissolved away from a cave. And that whole process is the same way that Mammoth Cave formed, just on a much larger scale. So here we have a very small cave in the same rock that the world's longest cave, Mammoth Cave, is formed. And that cave now is over 400 miles from that cave. Before we go any further, I want everybody to, I'm going to see if there's any questions here. I might take a question or two. But then I'm going to have everybody kind of back up against the railing. I want to show you something just above us here. But before we do that, anybody have any questions? All right. Just back up against the railing and kind of look up the edge of the mouth of the cave. Now I know you're a little further away, so you're going to have to listen carefully. It's going to be very short. I just want to point something out to you. And as you come up here, you're going to be coming up this way. Just kind of glance off back and along the cave front here. You're going to see a thin layer of looks like kind of a white or sort of a pale chalky color, or it kind of looks like some mud or like a white clay. It's sort of tucked into a little gap in the limestone there, about 3 feet above the upper edge of the mouth of the cave. That layer, which is about 12 inches thick, is what we call a paleosol. The term paleosol means an ancient soil layer. Soils only form when you have land, when water goes away, when sea level drops, and the rock is exposed to air and to atmospheric weathering, like rain, snow, wind, all that sort of thing. That helps to break down the rock and form soil. So what that thin layer of clay is telling us is that the water level of the shallow sea actually dropped down, and that seafloor was exposed for a period of time to the air, to the atmosphere, and a soil layer formed. Then the sea rose back up again, covered over that soil, and started depositing more limestone, again, oolitic limestone, on top of it. So you literally see an ancient soil horizon or soil layer packed in between the layers of limestone, indicating that sea level dropped, it dried out, soil was formed on that, and then the sea came back in again, buried it with more limestone, and we have the rest of the sequence above it. So there's an opportunity to see an ancient soil horizon telling us there was a change in the environment, an adjustment in sea level. All right, next section trail is going to get a little bit rougher, so you want to keep an eye on the trail as you walk along. Take a look at the ledge as you come up here. Actually up on the top of the Appalachian Plateau. And so all the area that we're going to be able to notice over that direction, there is the rock that we were talking about before, Battleship Rock. We will be making our way around to that here in a little bit. But before we do, we got a couple things that we want to consider. First of all, this shelter was originally constructed back in the 1930s. It's been repaired several times, but it was actually built by the Civilian Conservation Corps, which was a works project that was part of President Roosevelt's New Deal, getting the people back to work in the Depression. The WPA and the CCC were projects that were started funded by the federal government, and this was one of the projects. In fact, Trail 1, which will be going down once we're done up here and heading down for our lunch break, was created by the Civilian Conservation Corps. And if you ever go to Mammoth Cave, many of the trails that you're on there, particularly the older newer trails, were built by the CCC. have trail. We're going to do kind of the opposite up this morning. We're going to go down, hike around, and then come back up again. It will not be as rigorous as this morning. You do need to watch your step, particularly on the way down. We're going to be going down steps. If they have leaves on them, leaves are wet, you will slip. This trail has claimed more than one knee. People falling and getting little cuts and scrapes. One person popped their kneecap out. That was fun. So, you need to be careful going down. Take your time. You need to sidestep or whatever it is, but take your time. Certainly don't be texting anybody while you're doing this. Other than that, the other rules we talked about this morning still exist. So you can see a massive outcrop of what material? What is it? Why are some people saying limestone?
Sandstone.
Thank you. This is sandstone. Notice the sand that's weathering out of it here. Notice the blocks that have fallen down off of it. Gravity doing its work. This is a rock shelter. You can throw stuff at people and shove them around, whatever, in a moment. Please listen. Here we can see an undercutting of this exposure of sandstone. This creates an overhang. It creates a rock shelter. Notice that we're at the head of a valley. The valley drops away from this direction. We can see the water dripping off and forming a little stream that's making its way on down and joining the drainage on down that direction. If this were to continue to be undercut, and if there were a valley on the other side, which would be undercutting from the other side, we could eventually open up a small opening here we call a lighthouse. And if that continues to be enlarged and the valley floor continues to drop away from it, it can open up to form an arch or bridge with more side. As it is, we have a little bit of a shelter. You can see how it would provide some protection for from the elements if we were in a rainstorm or whatever. Some of these go back further, much further into the hillside and form small caves. We don't really see any caves like that here in this area, but there are some that go back a considerable distance. In fact, in some of these, there's been some indication of early Native American Indian usage of these areas, although Kentucky by and large wasn't a major area for any Native American population, but it was a hunting ground for those people. But in any case, you can see how this forms a shelter, but it's the first stage of what might eventually become an opening and formation of the Marshall Bridge. Any questions?